there shall be no discrimination. It lays grounds and so forth and so on. You can't, just because you're a woman and who's experiencing menopause, now you must be discriminated against. No, we can't discard half of the population of the world and think just because they've entered this phase of life, then they are no good. No. Women themselves shouldn't feel that they don't belong there. Just because I'm going through this episodic situation right now, the menopause situation, you should feel less of yourself because you're not.
Welcome to another episode of Redefining Menopause Africa podcast. I am so excited for our conversation today. It's been a while in the making, and I am equally more excited that it is airing in October, which is World Menopause Awareness Month. If I could, I was going to say take a guess who our guest is. But since it's not a live conversation, I'm going to go right ahead and let you know that today we are having a conversation with the incredible change-making Dr. Jerry Gule. And as you know, we do not read biographies. We do not read bios in their entirety because when it comes to guests like him, we could go on and on and on. And actually thinking about it, I will let him do the honors of letting us know who exactly is Dr. Jerry Gule.
Xolani, thank you so much for welcoming me. I prefer calling you Xolani, but I must use the click, right?
No. Stick to what you always say, Xolani. You know that I always correct you when you write it properly. I'm like, no.
This is not it.
Xolani.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's such a privilege to be part of this conversation today, to be talking about a very, very important matter. A matter that I think as a man, you tend to shy away from it and say, it's not my matter, it's not my issue. And it is because of people like you that one feels comfortable to talk about this important subject. And to all the women out there, those are already in the phase. I'm not going to say happy menopause, but I'm going to say we value you, we value your contribution to society, to our world, to our families. You play an important part. So I am excited to be here. As introduced, my name is Dr. Jerry Gule. In fact, the full name is Dr. Jeremiah Majaheni Gule. Jerry is shortened, but it's easy, so I'm used to that also.
Oh, wow. Nice to officially meet you then, Dr. Jeremiah.
And the thing is, this name I got actually 12 hours or 48 hours before I started my primary school, my grade 1.
Oh.
So one of my relatives was coming around and the parents were like, what do we call this child? He's going to school tomorrow. We know they will want this English name. But I'm proud of all my names, right? Yeah. So, Jerry Gule, feel free to call me that. You can call me Majaheni if you so wish. I'm Swazi born, so I'm Swati by birth. I'm the fourth born in the family, a family of 5, one girl, my sister Christine, Mrs. Shonga today, older than me. So my first brother, Joseph, he passed away, unfortunately, in 1981 in a truck accident. Jameson, my second born, then Christine, my sister, and then myself and Jablane, the guy who comes after me. So our firstborn and the lastborn, they are both late today. So there are now 3 of us. I'm married to Gugu Gule. We've been married this is our 43rd year. We have 3 children, my stepdaughter, Bongi, and then our sons, Siabonga and Apelele, the musician. So those are our kids. I wanted a girl, and we ended up with another boy. So I had to, in our family, we talk about these things.
Love it.
So we spoke about this, and now, because of the challenge that the last born actually gave my wife, we decided, Yazin, this is it.
This is it.
We're not going to try for a girl. This is it. You can have a girl from elsewhere. And,
hence the name Apelele also. You were like, full stop.
It's full
Pelele,
stop. This is
done.
it, yes. I don't know what else you want to know about me.
If you're satisfied with that, we'll leave it at that. And I'm hoping that as we continue with this conversation.
Well, there's the thing called credibility, and we know that people talk about that.
Yes.
What qualifies this man
Why
to
is he
talk
here?
about this?
Yes.
I think because I'm born of woman, that's one. I was raised by my mother and my grandmom. My father passed on when I was about 14 years old. So those two ladies played a vital role in who I became. So that's one. That's why I'm interested. That's why I qualify to speak about this,
Tick.
because I'm born of women, and
Yes.
I'm in love with women. I'm in love with my wife, and I've seen her go through the stages of life, because we all go through the stages
True.
of life. For 43 years, I've been with her. I've seen all the changes. We were young when we got married, and today we're here. We are senior citizens. So, and very happy. So I proudly come to this platform to speak about this. By way of education, by God's grace, I was able to do my first degree. Then I became a teacher. I was a teacher for only 2 semesters, and I was recruited by my alma mater to come back and teach at the university. Actually, they offered me those days. You wouldn't struggle for a job. I was offered 3 jobs,
So
and the
you
university
had to
said,
like pick and
yeah,
choose.
pick and choose. So I chose something that I had not studied for, something that I had not done to stretch myself. So I went into management education. I couldn't teach students with the same level degree as a BA degree, so I needed to go into a master's. So I went to the University of Pittsburgh in the US to do my master's in that, and came back, and the bug had already, beaten me. So I went back to Harvard University for both a master's and a doctorate. So I then went back to teach again, and I enjoyed that, but left teaching because I thought, okay, this is fine, but it wasn't agile those days. I don't know whether universities are agile today, but it wasn't. I had a lot of energy, a lot of things that I wanted to do, and the protocols were like, here's it, I'm out of here. So I joined SAPI as a training manager, personnel manager promotion. Then it was called personnel manager. Then you go and become an HR manager. I then joined Standard Bank here in Johannesburg as the program development manager. Exciting position that I really enjoyed. Left, went into another organization as an ODEE manager. Left that, going to HR consulting at PwC, left that, and then ended up at Total as the transformation manager, responsible for transformation initially, to make sure that that company complied with the petroleum charter within 10 years, and we pushed that, and it was successful. I then was promoted to be GM transformation, procurement, and human resources. So I ran that for quite some time, 7 years in fact, and then I was moved aside to do what was then called the Total Marketing Competency Center, which was working on the rest of the continent except South Africa. We're building service stations, the retail stations, doing commercial, the stuff that happens in mining, how to make sure that part of our business was working well. I managed that for 18 months. Then I quit and I started my coaching company. If that doesn't bring any credibility, I think the point that I want to make is that I've been in the people business. And the matter of menopause that we're talking about today is is part of the people business matter. So I think that qualifies me to talk to you.
I think we've laid the foundation. It's beyond solid. The foundation is beyond solid.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to backtrack to
Yes.
our first meeting.
Yes.
Not even our first meeting, actually, how I got to introduce myself to you. Because, doing the work that I've been doing since 2016, I've always been struggling to find men to get on board in these conversations for a number of reasons. So I discovered you. Then I saw that you were going to be at this other event.
Yes.
And I'm like, RSVP, because I'm not even interested in the subject or whatever that is going to be discussed, but I need to meet him afterwards and introduce myself to him, and hopefully he will give me that listening that I needed. So obviously I stayed the whole event, and then
boring as it was, maybe.
no, it was worthwhile in other ways, but still, I knew, I always say that I'm the girl who shoots her shot. So I knew that you were the target. So the moment the event finished, I could tell that people were also gunning for you. Ooh. So I had to okay, fine. How do I make this as quick as possible? Then I just told myself that I need to introduce myself, mention what I do, gauge how you respond,
Yeah.
and then ask for time to meet with you outside of that event, because I knew that it was not the ideal, obviously, setting to speak about the work that I do. And you were receptive,
Yes.
interestingly. And then we met.
Yes.
You had allocated me an hour,
Mm-hmm.
but as God, luck, and whoever that is looking out for fellow women out there was like, you know what, your other meeting.
I cancelled.
Yes. And then we ended up sitting for hours.
Yeah.
And when we go back to that meeting, before us speaking, what did you know about menopause? What had been your exposure to menopause? What you had observed in corporate SA also?
Yeah. I think my wife has been a teacher for me, because that's talk about close proximity. That's where I picked it up when she got into the stage. We all know that on average, women between the ages of 45 to about 55, that's when it's gonna hit, right? And then of course that's part of your life, but that's when it kicks. So when my wife reached that stage, and she was still employed, but it was clear that that's what the way those changes taking place in her life, and the adjustment that needed to be done. So that I knew, apart from you learn about it in your biology, right? When you do your biology in high school, if you're going to be in the sciences, you learn about it. So I knew that stage comes, but it's because I'm a man, right? Then you're a boy, you don't really worry about it. You hear about it. When you are married, you live in close proximity with this person, you are intimate, you talk about things.
Yes.
So that's where I learned about what menopause really looks like, because my wife was going through that phase. Yes.
And then having been in corporate SA, what had been happening in the menopause space, how women were showing up, because as you say, you were getting the first hand experience at home. And then when you were at work, what is it that you were observing?
Nothing actually, unfortunately, and sadly so. I don't think this is a topic that is spoken about in the workplace. That's why I was intrigued when we first met and had that long conversation, and you were also telling me about your experiences as a working woman, working in a high pressured environment, and an environment where you needed to show up smiling every day, ready. But we know this, that you have to show up differently, at least for a moment. You must take a pause. It's called menopause for a reason, right?
Yes.
And it means you pause. And unfortunately, I don't think we understand that as corporates, as men, as people, that what does this actually mean? What changes? When you take a pause, let's just look at that word. When you take a pause, it means you stop, right? You reflect, and then you decide what your next actions are going to be. This is a phase. And you the one that told me that forget your 45, 45 years of age, because it can kick in early. I learned so much from just listening, and of course you gave me your book, just listening to you and talking about the research work that we had done. So coming back to your question, unfortunately, my experience, in fact, I don't recall this being discussed in any of my corporate meetings that we had. Even in conferences, I don't remember this being a subject. When my team introduced a wellness program in one of the companies, and during the high rate of the HIV virus, when it was hitting a lot of them, and we had to get employees to be brave, to stand up and say, I've contracted the disease, but I look at me today, look how I look, because I'm taking precautions. These are the things that I'm doing. We started that, and we're promoting that, and we're learning through that. We're talking about inclusivity, disability inclusivity, mainstreaming persons with disability, talking about all sorts of things. This never came up.
Yeah. It is a sad reality, but through conversations like this, I think that's how we're going to continue to make certain headways. And I love that you've said that even when it comes to wellness, I mean, so much has been done, great strides. Like even now, mental health is up there. But menopause, only now we're starting to scratch the surface. But the truth of the matter is every woman if they live long enough. It's a phase of life that they will go into. Who does this subject fall under in corporate SA, actually? Is it for wellness? Is it for HR? Because that's another question that keeps coming up when I approach companies. They never sure as to who should
No,
spearhead it.
that's just an excuse. It's an excuse. If we were to look at the hierarchy of an organization, who is at the end of the day accountable for running this entity? Who signs off everything, policies?
Yeah.
If we look at the hierarchy, it actually starts from the top. And who's the top? I know we'll all look at the CEO because he does the operations. But in terms of policies, your board of directors, the board must know. The board that approves everything that happens here. This is one of the policies that our boards that you are engaged in must make sure that you take care, because we are about taking care, putting people first. We should forget this idea that women are not people. Women are people. So we can't talk about our people and then jiggy.
When it's convenient now.
At some point when it is convenient, it's like they are an afterthought. No, all our employees, we must think about their welfare. And this phase of life, and I like what you are saying, this is a normal phase of life. The problem with us people is that we make certain things, I don't know whether we make them, we sort of put a stigma on things.
Yeah.
Disability is the same thing. We should not be putting a stigma. We should look at the human experience and say, we all experience. I mean, here is a fact that you haven't asked me for. We know, for instance, most men, right, by the age of, call it 77 to 80 to, as you go, we know that prostate cancer becomes an issue. Prostate is an issue. It's a normal, should you now be running away and saying, I've reached this stage? And no, you have to make sure, and particularly because we hear and we see that, in fact, this whole thing called retirement is on a way out. Should that just be for men only and not women, include women and the phases that they've gone through? No. So I am saying, you ask me the question, who is ultimately responsible? I think it should devolve from the board to the executive team, the management, all the way down to the last employee in the organization. We must hold each other's hands on this.
I love that. And I'm actually going to look straight to the camera to say that you heard it and I am in agreement.
Yeah. And I'm a chairman of a board, so I know what I'm talking about.
You see, nobody can say that I just sucked whatever it is. You've heard it from the chairman of the board, and I hope that other chairmen listening to us, they're going to really sit up and take notice. And not just because we are flighting this episode also in October, because women are transitioning into menopause every day.
Yeah.
So this is an everyday conversation. It's an everyday decision making. It's an everyday anything and everything. So
and I think that the thing that we want to emphasize, women are talent. Women are in a majority in the world, right? So they are going to be a majority in your company, right? Yes. The women are doing well. I was listening to, as I was coming here, I was listening to, who is actually occupying a lot of seats at varsity, who's qualifying to get through, getting that exemption to go. It's girls. Yeah. So it's very clear. And there is nothing wrong with it. This is a part of our population. Females are part of our population that we called to make sure that we cherish, right? That we provide the same. We don't ask them to change to be like us because we're men, because that's not what's going to happen. All right? It's actually stupid to expect a woman to change and behave like a man. If similarly, for a woman to want to be a man, you're not a man. We're different, but we must make sure that, one, we treat each other with equality. Let me just, because I'm a Christian also, let me just say this. In thinking about this, there is something very interesting in Scripture that talks about how I relate to my wife. First, she's my wife, but she's my sister in the Lord. That changes how I treat her. Changes how I treat other women also, not just my wife, because it's all about attitude. And it's this, I call it stupid fear of fearing women. Why would you want to treat a woman in disdain? What's the reason for that? Because women in corporate, in organizations are actually talent. And we know research, Deloitte, McKinsey, PwC, all of them, they will tell you that when you bring women in, when you gender mainstream, right? Companies that are able to gender mainstream. And gender mainstream, by the way, would also mean then your policies are caring policies for everybody, not for a select few. Research would tell us that those companies perform better than companies that are the other side, the other way. Okay. So that's why we should care. That's why we should care.
Not an optional extra.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Genuine care, everyday care, and not to tick boxes also.
Yeah. And if you want your child, your talent to shine, you create a conducive environment. So all I'm saying about when we talk about menopause and policies that are around that, knowing the changes that happen and the biological changes that happen in women, how can we, for this period, make sure that we create policies that will not discard this talent that we have, but that this talent will contribute. This episode, it's episodic, right? This stuff is episodic. Menopause is episodes. You can talk more about that than me, right? Let's just understand. So awareness is such a key thing. Let's educate ourselves. I'm educating myself. I'm still learning about it so that I can, because I'm a coach. I coach people. Instead of thinking that now just because you're a woman, you're experiencing something that you have entered now you have become stupid. How stupid can that be? And the people around you, instead of the colleagues around you embracing and give you support, everyone now thinks this one is going cuckoo. It's not on. Actually, the stupidity is the other side, right? So we can't, I'm saying, let's utilize the talent that we have. We can't discard half of the population of the world and think just because they've entered this phase of life, then they are no good. No.
I'm so glad that actually you've taken it there, because that was going to be one of my questions. On Saturday, we were having a gathering around menopause again. And one of the ladies was asking me to say that, Gule, don't you think that it might be too much, though, bringing this into the workplace? Because already women are seen to be lesser off based on some of the feminine differences that they come with in the workplace. And then now bringing menopause, isn't it going to make women be discarded at some point when they reach this phase of life? And to me, it was exactly some of the things that you've mentioned. I also took it as far back to say that when women first entered in the workplace, there was no maternity leave.
Yeah.
Because
Today
why
there's
would there be?
paternity
Yeah,
leave.
why would there be? Because women were not there in the first place. But then them being there, falling pregnant, having to take time off, have job security while they were away and be able to come back again. It took a certain change. It took certain conversations. It took certain being open-minded enough to say that, but it's bigger than the talent. Productivity and so much loyalty to the organizations and all of that. So I believe that even with menopause, because we are staying longer in organizations, but also menopause is happening earlier also.
You see now.
And we know that, the generation of now, they're not looking just for the paycheck. Work for them is more than a paycheck. They need to, they say that we need to feel valued. We need to feel like we matter. Because, coming from other organizations also, the values will be there that, staff, you are like the customer first. But you're like, but then if I am a customer, then why are you not treating me as a customer? So I'm glad that you have brought that.
It shouldn't just by bringing this into the workplace to corporate, it shouldn't mean that it changes again, it demeans women. That's exactly what it shouldn't do. Particularly in an era where we have all sorts of laws that you must be fair. Most organizations will have this value that we will treat all our people with dignity.
Yes.
I come back and underline this: women are people. So if we're saying we're going to treat our people with dignity, let's not be selective. Let's treat people with dignity as they are, not as we wish them to be, as they are. Okay, so I think that for me, that's the reason. It should not. And I also want to put this point and underscore it very emphatically. Women themselves shouldn't feel that they don't belong there. Just because I'm going through this episodic situation right now, the menopause situation, you should feel less of yourself because you're not. You're still your worth. You just need the environment to be accommodative, to be understanding, to be aware, because that menopause doesn't take anything out of you. You still this very same person. It may affect you at a particular time, like we know. You and I have spoken about this. That because there's a change, there's a, what did you call it now? A change in the system, right?
Yes.
And you may, for a moment, not for life, but for a moment, you may have the fog, you may have all the. But if your colleagues are understanding, we were talking, for instance, about, and there's a lady in Durban who was also a big advocate, and I follow her on LinkedIn. She talks about this stuff.
Yes.
That when you have an executive meeting, right, making decisions, but because Menopause is not going to announce itself and say, Papa, I'm coming. No, right? The episode will come at a time when it chooses to come. But as a person who's affected, you feel it, right? You can indicate to your colleagues, listen, this is what's happening right now. The temperature is X and Y and that. And for now, this is what I need. You shouldn't be ashamed. It's such a pity that we so hard on one another. We're so hard on one another. Yet, it's not necessary at all. Gule, if you just tell me, listen, I need to step out of this meeting for 15 minutes or for 20 minutes or maybe for the next hour. Why should that be an issue? Why should I now look at you with like a different eye as if there's something wrong with you? No, I shouldn't. We should educate ourselves as line managers, as bosses of these organizations, and understand our colleagues and know where they are in their lives. Because people, remember, a person can lose their dignity because of how we treat them. They may feel there's something wrong with them when in fact there's perfectly nothing wrong with them. So it's important that I think we make ourselves aware, and that this empathy that we talk about, because this can spiral into mental health if we're not careful. So we can't be saying our company is good with this, is good with that, but when it comes to taking care of all our employees, we now start to discriminate. We can't do that.
I highly appreciate everything that you've said thus far, and I keep nodding on the inside, obviously, because otherwise I'm gonna look like those dolls. You remember those dolls that used to be on the on the front of the cars in the olden days? Because I am getting so many eureka moments, and I think that is why I really felt that you deserve to get on this platform. Because also the way that you address this, you are not coming just from one side, but you look at it in a multifaceted way. And I love that you keep looking at women also as whole individuals, not just certain parts of women. Because, I mean, women have to show up in the workplace holistically in their whole entirety. But unfortunately, you mentioned again that women feel like they need to dim certain aspects of their femininity, like certain industry. I mean, for example, Kate Hiwe, she loves bold, vibrant colors. And she will say that that's just who she is. But there's still spaces that women feel like, oh no, even if I love bold colors, but I cannot. If it's an industry that is professionalism is deemed to be like it's the grays, the blacks, the whites, and the navies, that's it. Then who am I then to bring myself? Because then it's going to be like, why that? Women then also want to hold up having that softness in them in how they speak. Then they have to adopt this agroness so that they can be heard. And I think that's another thing that I've come across whenever I do some of the research. I speak to some of the older female executives wanting to hear their menopause experience. How was it for you transitioning? because I'm like, there is no way that all of them had a breeze
Yeah.
into menopause.
Yeah.
But then how come nobody spoke about it back then? But then some will say that, you know what, the battle was bigger than having to focus on fluff, because some look at it as like it's fluff.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be fluff, because according to research, 25% yes will breeze into menopause, 50 will have mild to moderate symptoms. Then there's a 25% who will face debilitating symptoms that really turn their lives upside down.
Yeah.
And then that's when, then again, according to research, 1 out of 10 women will either resign due to their struggles. Then talent again, years of experience is lost. And then how much is it gonna take to be able to get that same?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think only one of the problems that we have had, I mean, let me just backtrack and say one of the beautiful things that have come out of COVID, I know COVID was bad, people lost their lives, but is to understand what work is. And that work can be done anywhere. People can be productive wherever they are. Because sometimes, for instance, I think now, if you were to do research into how women are dealing with menopause in an era where we work remotely,
Yes.
it might slightly, but I still would hate that because of reaching this stage of life, we now want to condemn women to go back to the cave and hide themselves. No. My thing is a firm no. It shouldn't be. We should be accommodative. We should understand. We should make ourselves aware of how we can support a woman, because they still need to come to the office, right? And it should be welcoming. They can work remotely, but what I'm saying is that they must have the freedom, like all of us, to work anywhere where they choose to be. But I think remote work has made it possible now that we unashamedly say, okay, you go balance this and be where you can work comfortably in your own space, in your own terms. But we're there to support. Those words must be said. We're there to support. If you need us, please just ring us. We're a phone call away to support you. And actually check on the colleague. Because as you say, particularly if it is severe symptoms, people feeling sick, because you can feel sick, right? People should know that my company, my organization still cares for me, because that will alleviate the loneliness that they may feel during this. They would know that there is support. This is normal, right? This is normal. It's a normal part of being human, but just being female. Let's embrace it and let's support one another during that time.
And having done the research that you've been doing,
Yes.
because people also go like, oh no, isn't it costly then to accommodate women? And I mean, some of the changes it's changes that really do not cost much.
Yeah.
As you say, flexi hours wherever possible, remote work wherever possible, and changing working stations so that I'm closer to the window to avoid sometimes maybe the aircon battles.
Yeah.
Because when I'm getting my personal summer, then I don't have to cramp up the aircon to make everybody cold, but then I can be closer to the window or closer to the door, or be able to step out. Because I mean, when we're getting the personal summer, it lasts for maybe a few seconds or a few minutes. Then as you say, in the bigger scheme of things, it doesn't affect like really much. But then if we're not even opening the door to these conversations, we can't even see that, you know what, these changes that keep being spoken about, some of them really do not cost much. Because I make an example sometimes that smokers, they've got bigger or more liberties actually. Like I'm stepping out to smoke quite a number of times.
During the day, yes. Yeah.
So someone else can also then be able to step out, just compose themselves, cool themselves, be able to say, as you were putting it during a meeting, like, can we just time out for a few moments? Let me just compose myself. And sometimes even if it's a virtual meeting, if I go off camera,
it shouldn't be an issue.
Yes. I shouldn't feel like I have to be penalized.
You see, if let's call it the chair of that virtual meeting or any space where you are, the leader of that environment, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about good leaders, good managers, is you should know your people. You should know where they are. You should check in with your people, not check on your people.
Check in.
Check in. Find out who is who, what's happening. Because all of us, when we come, we don't leave our lives out, at the door when we get into the office, or when we go to work, or when we do work. It's still whether we're working remotely, it's still our lives. So this checking in helps in that even when you start a meeting, just to check how are we feeling. I like doing that in my meetings, even in board meetings, just to check that people are bringing the correct energy. They're feeling okay, they're being here, because you may drag yourself to a meeting either because you want the board fees or you're looking for something, but you are not really bringing your whole self, which means then you are not functioning at your maximum level, because there is part of you that's concerning you. Just imagine this: if you don't have a policy or a practice of checking in with the people around you when you meet with them, someone is dealing with a really difficult issue and you haven't checked, and you are expecting them to be, and half the time they're not even in the room. And then what are you going to say? So it's important to understand where your team is, where your people are. It saddens me to hear what you are saying, Claudia, that senior women that are now retiring or have retired from corporate had to hide what they were going through, and had to, and that must, I'm sure your research that you do with them tells you that those were not easy days.
No.
I'm not saying but it's better when you accommodate. You don't feel like you are cheating or you are robbing anyone, because you know that people are behind you, are supporting you. You're not hiding anything. So that's the beauty of what, having these kinds of conversations and having the right policies and organizations. You free your people, right? Because we all know now, for instance, that your loyal, dedicated contributors in your company, it doesn't matter where they are, whether they are working remotely or they are working in the office, they will give you the juice. They will produce what you want. They will give you the results. All right? And when a woman knows that my company supports me in all spheres of my life, they will give you everything that you need. So I just think that women don't deserve to hide who they are, deserve to hide what they are going through, but they need our organizations to be supportive.
We had to take a bit of a break because I should have actually said when we started that I'm recovering from flu.
Yeah.
My throat is still acting up, but here we are. We keep it moving.
Okay.
Someone can be listening to this conversation and say that this is all well for maybe certain industries. But then there is certain industries that look at this conversation as maybe an indulgent kind of a topic. Women that are working in certain industries where they have to show up every day, there are no options of remote working.
Yeah.
They have to be there. Then how do we make sure that they are also included in this phase of life, that they do not feel like we are not even mentioned whenever this conversation is brought up? According to the Dahlia study, and this is now a South African research, it says 1 out of 5 women will hide their menopause struggles at home, which already is sad, because home is our space, so it's supposed to be free. But that's a reality. And then 2 out of 5 women will hide their struggles at work. So you can imagine in certain industries, struggling with menopause, you speak about it, you think, oh my God, I'm going to be fired. So how then do we accommodate the women in those other industries?
Yeah, I'm not naive, right?
Yes.
I know that we put, particularly our capitalistic system, what it would like to do is to put we put profit before people, and we think that by being harsh on people, that's what's going to give us the profits. In fact, you get the opposite. As an organization that doesn't treat its employees as it would like to treat its customers, because remember, your customer service is a reflection of your internal customer service to your staff. If your staff are feeling like they're not being treated right, they're not going to do the best with the customer. So there's a balance that you need to create here. So your first question: Is this reserved for special industries? Is it only special industries that must have conducive policies that support women, all women throughout their lives? My answer is no, it's not special industries. All industries must do that. I bring it for in the case of this country, South Africa, I'd bring it back to Chapter 2 of the Employment Equity Act. There is no basis for discriminating against any employee. Right. So all employees, in other words, must be that chapter of the Employment Equity Act speaks about there shall be no discrimination. It lays grounds and so forth and so on. You can't, just because you're a woman and who's experiencing menopause, now you must be discriminated against. No. That's one. So there is a legal thing, the requirement that we must, and we also talk about just good corporate citizenship, right? Good companies, ethics, ethical, doing business ethically. When you discriminate, you are not a good, you're not doing your business ethically. So your ethics are in doubt there. So it doesn't really matter what industry. In all industries, my position would be we should be able to listen to women. And in fact, if you want to solve this problem, you don't go research it elsewhere. Your employees, your women in your own organizations, they have the answers on how you can accommodate them. So ask them. Just give them the space to hear what they have to say. Women in these hard industries, in agriculture, in particularly, we know a lot of women in agriculture, particularly your agro-business, business in sector, part of the business. If you go to the citrus plants, that's what you will find. The grape farms, that's what you'll find lots of women. Are we saying those industries shouldn't be providing care for them? No, because in fact, that's where your profit is going to come from. When they work committed, happy, they are going to, when they harvest those scraps to make that wine that you're going to be selling overseas, they should do it with joy because they know the employer cares. So for me, in those restaurants, right, where they are running up and down, I know you are chasing your profits, you are chasing your productivity. Ask them, how can we run this when, and of course I'm being facetious because women in restaurants are younger. They're not a lot of, but as you and I have spoken before, you can be 30 and you can be experiencing
in
this.
your 20s also due to certain medications, treatments, like for example, the previous episode, our guest Kia, she was struggling with endometriosis as a young lady. Then she went on a medication that led her to medically induced menopause before time. So yes, someone can be watching and listening to us and thinking the same thing. But that it's important that we mention that menopause can happen whether in teenhood sometimes for known and unknown reasons.
And you see, the mistake you can make is to say there's something wrong with you, right? There's something wrong. There is nothing wrong with the woman who is experiencing this. It's a reaction, as you have said, sometimes to medication because of just the fact that we're different. We're not the same. Men and women are not the same. But we need to create an environment that is conducive, that would enable them to still be productive. And it's not that difficult. It's not rocket science. You listen, you adjust, they can give you the solution. I was privileged. When I worked at this other organization, I had 10 women who were reporting to me, right? And there were issues that they knew as a man I didn't understand. I remember one of the senior ones saying to me, Bab Gule, we will take care of this. We know that you mean well, but you don't understand it fully. So leave it to us. And what I'm saying with that is trust the employees that work for you. They are adults. The tragedy in the workplace is that when people come to work, we start treating them like children. We should not do that. We work with adults in the workplace. In fact, to qualify to work is because you have now reached that stage of being treated as an adult. So let's accept that. And adults have ideas. I know some adults behave stupidly, right? We all do sometimes. But please don't treat all your employees as imbeciles because they are not. Listen, this was such an important conversation. And I know that we are not done, that there's more to come. But it's such an important conversation that you started, Xoli, for particularly because we spend, both men and women, we spend our time at the office, wet work. Um, whether we're working from home or we're working in the office itself or working in a factory. All I'm saying is that we need those that lead others, those that are put in positions of authority, their managers, they need to understand all their people and so that they can provide for their welfare. Um, but again, I want to go back to this last point that I was making, that our employees are smart. That's why we employ them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. They know what is right. They know what is wrong. They can contribute how we can make this conversation around menopause meaningful for all employees. So let's not be shy. Let's talk about it. Let's lead it. Let's be inclusive. Let's make it normal because it's a normal human evolution kind of thing or progression kind of thing. So let's not be shy to talk about this, both at home and at work. That would be my concluding remarks for today.